Genetics, I mean, they have made as much of a difference as the other technologies probably combined. It's just been a longer, slower process. The quality of the animals, even the poorer end, have improved so much. It's amazing.
We market cattle 2 or 3 different ways. You know, there's a handful of the cattle here that are still sold on a negotiated cash basis each week. The majority of the cattle today are marketed on a grid where each individual carcass is paid for based on its quality grade and yield grade and hot carcass yield.
One thing about Pokey that's a little different, unique than a lot of feed yards today is 90% of the cattle here are owned by someone else. So we don't have as much influence of what we take in and feed as we did 15 or 18 years ago.
Welcome to the American Rancher. I'm Pam Minnick. Today's show takes us into the Midwest and South Plains, where we'll learn about the feedlot business with some of the best in this sector of the beef industry. Not long ago, Superior Country Page manager Rayne and Mitchell Lichtie went on the road and met cattlemen at Pratt and Pokey feeders in Kansas, and then out to the Oklahoma Panhandle where they visited the Hitch Enterprises yard near Guyman. The hosts took time with Rayne and Mitchell and shared how their feed yards work, as well as the role that they play in the beef industry. Later in the show, we'll bring Rayne and Mitchell back in to see what they learned and discuss the work they do with Superior Livestock's Country Page. We're glad you joined us. We'll get started in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the American Rancher. We're bringing you a feed yard special today and think it'll be a good look into another side of the beef industry that you'll enjoy. The yards that we visit today are very well managed and feed and oversee cattle by tens of thousands. It's a business that requires both buying and selling and a lot of organization in between. Feedlot operators are located throughout the U.S., with a high concentration of yards in the center of the nation, spreading from Kansas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska to adjoining states. As the cattle feeding industry took a widespread hold in America in the 1950s and 60s, feed yards bloomed near the vast grain fields which sourced them. Feed yards are a 24/7 year-round business that gathers and finishes the cattle raised by American ranchers and beef producers and ultimately delivers them to the packing industry. Like ranching, it's a livestock enterprise with its own set of challenges and rewards. Pratt feeders outside Pratt, Kansas began in the late 1950s and has a yard capacity of some 40,000 head, with interest in other yards in Ashland, Kansas and Buffalo, Oklahoma that total nearly another 50,000 head. Jerry Bone serves as general manager.
We've got cattle here right now all the way from Idaho to Florida and about every state in between. The cattle that we want to buy for our company feeding account are usually the upper, I'd say 25 to 30% in quality. We're a certified Angus beef partner feed yard and have been with them since 2003, and so over the years we've probably focused on buying more Angus-based cattle and bringing them into our program to fit that market.
We run projections on every pen of cattle we bid on. In feeder cattle procurement, we're like everybody else in every business, is we've got to figure out ways to control our cost. And the drought has caused our feed costs to go up, our basis on our grains that we purchase to be higher. Our cost of gains will almost move daily as our feed prices change, and we'll use those factors in calculating our projections.
Currently, transportation costs for trucking cattle sit at about $4 per mile, a significant expense. Cattle that go on feed quickly perform the best and ensure a positive transition from the stress encountered in changing their environment. Pen riders watch for sick or injured cattle and will either administer medication or separate them for treatment in another location.
Upon arrival, the animals are unloaded. They're given access to fresh water and grass hay, and then we start introducing our starting ration to them within 24 hours of arrival. The cattle are vaccinated for respiratory disease. They're ridden once a day on horseback by competent pen riders. Any sick animal is pulled out of the home pen, taken to the hospital and treated. All of our crews are trained with beef quality assurance standards, and they're certified. And today we're probably still 55–60% customer cattle here, but there is a larger proportion of the inventory now owned by the company as compared to 5 to 10 years ago.
Feedlot operators will use an assortment of commodities to bring together the grow ration of the cattle. Corn is the standard ingredient. Managing feed costs on an open market is another phase of the feedlot operation that requires strict attention.
Everything about a feed yard is details. Nothing very complicated about it. It's managing every day, dozens or 100 details right. And so everything from feeding, making a consistent quality flake, consistent quality mix, consistent delivery, timely processing of cattle and coming in, and all those things make a huge difference in the predictability of how your cattle are going to perform. We provide a variety of services to our customers, including feed and cattle financing, some assistance with the risk management programs, and a variety of marketing options. You've got to deal with customers honestly, and not give them projections that are unrealistic, and you'll develop some credibility that way at that time.
Superior Livestock has had the privilege of dealing with many good feed yard operators throughout the years, such as Pratt Feeders.
We started buying cattle from Superior almost from the very beginning. Currently, in the last several months, that's been the primary way that we've procured the bulk of our cattle is from the Superior auction.
Superior presents cattle that are lot numbers, they're described, we know something about the health background based on those descriptions, and it's easier to make those projections. And sometimes that's easier than buying cattle in the sale barn that you know nothing about.
The genetic makeup of all the cattle, I think, is improving. There's more interest on the part of producers of getting data back so that they can learn what they've got. I think the advent of more grid marketing and people realizing premiums from the better quality cattle has certainly helped that also. I think that's a trend that you'll continue to see going forward.
We're proud to be part of the feeding industry. We think we could make a big contribution on the feeding level in terms of the efficiency in beef production. I know the ranchers out there are proud of what they accomplish, and we want to fill our role as well as providing a quality product, taking the calves that they provided good genetics for and doing the best we can to deliver them to the packer segment of our industry in turn.
Hitch Enterprises near Guyman, Oklahoma, has been in the cattle business for more than 125 years. It is a family-owned operation that began feeding cattle in the early 1950s and has steadily grown since. Hitch Enterprises employs some 300 people and has yards with capacities of more than 100,000 head. Jason and Chris Hitch serve as co-CEOs of a great enterprise that understands that feeding cattle means feeding people.
I think the specific things to us would be we're south of the major weather and north of the short corn. So we tend to be pretty moderate as far as weather goes. And our corn prices tend to be also pretty moderate. The other selling point I think specific to Hitch is that we have a variety of ways to take care of your cattle as far as you can feed them with us and own them all the way through and pay your feed bill every month. We can carry your feed bill through for an interest charge. We can invest in your cattle as a partnership and buy out half of them. We can finance your cattle feeding, so if you need to get your capital back out of the cattle. We have a variety of ways to make it work for the retained ownership person. For many, many years, that was our goal and focus, and all those programs are still in place.
The Hitch operation is comprised of 2 yards called the Henry C. Hitch Feedlot and Hitch Feeders 1. In recent years, Hitch has opened a pork division and also runs several thousand stockers.
Both feed yards have goods and bads. The I guess the best good for Henry C is that it's right there next to our home place. We can actually take some stocker cattle and background them there at the ranch, get them cleaned up and ready to go, deliver them to the feed yard, and then they get a whole bunch of cattle that are basically, the sickness is gone, they're healthy, they didn't have to ride anywhere to get there, they cross a fence line to walk into the feed yard. Stress is real low on them, they've been handled a lot. Hitch 1, the yard is bigger. Other than the night crew on the feed crew, it takes about the same number of people to run it, so it's probably a little more efficient. The mill is a finished mill, which means that we don't have to actually mix the ration on our truck. At Henry C, the mill, you kind of take raw ingredients, put it on the truck, mix it up before you deliver it to the pen or on the way to the pen. And Hitch 1 has a finished mill where the product's already completely mixed. All they have to do is deliver it to the pen. Hitch 1 wins on the corn and feed, I guess, and Henry C wins on the fact that it's got a built-in backgrounding ranch and associated sundries next door to it.
Genetics continue to make substantial positive impact to all phases of the beef industry, and feed yards are no exception. Fat cattle are sold either on cash market or on a grid system, where value is determined by carcass merit.
A large majority of our cattle are going on the cash market at this point. The gridding has gotten tougher. I mean, basically, the cattle overall have just gotten better. The genetics, I mean, they have made as much of a difference as the other technologies probably combined. It's just been a longer, slower process. The genetics are huge. The quality of the animals, even the poorer end, have improved so much. It's amazing.
This last year, and it'll be about a year and a half to it might be 24 months, but I'm thinking about 18 to 20 months are going to be tough. But at the same time, we had probably two and a half years before that where we made money on almost every turn of cattle. I mean, there was a lot of times when you could buy an animal and hedge $2 profit in them the day that you bought them. I mean, so it's a really funny market. This corn thing has changed everything. I tend to think volatility provides opportunity if you're watching it really closely, but that may be true in corn. I haven't seen it quite as much in cattle.
Pratt Feeders and Hitch Enterprises are two very good feedlot operations run by dedicated people who carry on the tradition of cattle feeding with great integrity. We'll continue our feed yard special with a visit to Pokey Feeders when we return. You're watching The American Rancher. Stay with us. Welcome back to The American Rancher. We've learned, among other things, that the feedlot business is about managing a lot of details well. It's an industry that requires daily attention to avoid risk and losses. We continue our story in western Kansas with Pokey Feeders.
Pokey was involved in the very beginning of U.S. Premium Beef. U.S. Premium Beef is the grid system, the marketing system of National Beef. And I would say we're marketing now somewhere close to 85 or 90% of our cattle are going through the grid. And the largest percentage of those would go through National. As the whole industry has changed, you know, we have too. And so we kill a large percentage of our cattle, like I said, but they are really a higher quality animal.
Located at Scott City, Kansas, Pokey Feeders has been feeding cattle since the early 1980s. The company originated in Pocahontas, Iowa. Joe Morgan has been with Pokey since 1985 and serves as general manager and is also part owner of the yard.
One thing about Pokey that's a little different, unique than a lot of feed yards today is 90% of the cattle here are owned by someone else. So we don't have as much influence of what we take in and feed as we did 15 or 18 years ago. Back in that time frame, we did buy a lot more feeder cattle, it seems like, and we had more of a clientele of investor type feeders that we bought the cattle for and sold to them. Today, we seem to have more retained ownership and more of a customer base of that type.
Pokey is a massive operation with a capacity of some 75,000 head of cattle. Feeding occurs 3 times daily beginning at 6 a.m. and finishing up about 4 p.m. Joe Morgan and the Pokey staff work closely with their customers to assure the health and well-being of all stock. Cattle received are processed in a timely fashion with attention given to the previous health program that the cattle were on. Pokey has a staff of some 70 people, which are assigned to the operational phases of the yard.
We have the feed department, which would be the mill and the feed truck drivers. We do our own processing here, so we have our own processing cattle, which would be, given the vaccinations and the implants, and then we also have a health crew, and so we have pen riders that check the cattle, and we ride all the cattle here once a day, and problem pens we do twice a day. When they send cattle in here, even though they've been previously vaccinated, that sets up the health, but we need to do additional booster shots here because you have this viral cloud in these big feed yards because you're constantly having cattle come in and you're just always challenging the health of these cattle. So it's important that we booster the shots. They do need to have the shots at home, and I promote that with our customers, to have a vaccination program, work with their local vet, get a good program, and we'll help them. Our vet will help them. Currently, we're feeding just flake corn. If the market allows, we'll feed flaked wheat.
Feedlot operators exercise proper care of livestock with high regard for handling procedures that ensure the well-being for both the animals and the people that work with them.
It's just good stewardship on our part, and we want to produce a healthy product for everyone. My children, my grandchildren, my family. We eat beef. We want it to be healthy for everybody, and yet we also have to balance, the use of antibiotics and feed additives and everything to be competitive in the industry, plus to produce the pounds of beef that our society is going to need to eat. If we don't take care of the animals, they're not going to perform for us. And, if they don't perform for us, we won't be in business very long.
Most cattle that enter the yard as 8 weights will finish within 150 to 180 days. At this point, the cattle are ready at 1,250 to 1,350 pounds to walk that last mile to harvest, where they provide edible protein and other valuable products which support life on a large scale.
Well, it's a tough industry, without a doubt. We all know that. It is a real tough industry, and I've got some other really good, young, talented guys with us now, probably the best crew I've had in a long time. One of the things I tell them that, there's just great opportunity here if you want to work hard and pay attention and do good business. There's probably as much opportunity now as there ever has been because there's getting to be less and less people that want to do this. And so those that do will be rewarded for it, and I really believe that.
Rayne Austin and Mitchell Lichtie had a great trip to see some of the feed yards that Superior Livestock has done business with for years. They came away from it knowing the feeding sector of the beef industry better and should benefit from the experience in their own positions with the Superior Livestock country page.
It's a real good opportunity for Mitchell and I to get out and get on the road and go visit 3 feed yards. We had the opportunity to visit Hitch Feed Yard, Pokey Feeders, and then Pratt Feeders. And talking with all 3 yards, one thing you do know is that they're going to do what works for them, and that's what they have to do. They have to work for their customers and make sure they do a tremendous job at feeding those cattle. They have to work for the people who have invested in their yards, and as they buy the cattle for the yard and feed those cattle, they have to make sure that they buy the very best cattle they can. And they want the best for the feed yard industry as the people eating American beef do. Those guys, they work hard every day to make sure that they produce the best product they can.
We did ask all 3 guys what they feed and what works for them, and it is whatever works for them is what they're using as far as price and availability goes. Demand for corn's been up, corn prices are up, so the guys who can plant wheat and use it and save a dime, they sure do it. And I think a lot of their guys take a lot of pride in what they do, and it's not easy to run a feed yard when you start talking in the 30 to 100,000 head. a lot of variables, a lot of potential risk, and a lot of people doing their job the right way to make it work successfully.
I grew up in the cattle industry. My family's in the cattle buying industry, and so I've been a part of the cattle industry my whole life. It was a great opportunity to get up there and to get from their point of view, from the manager and assistant manager's point of view, and to see exactly what goes into day-to-day operations.
Superior Livestock's country page is an excellent source for finding cattle available immediately throughout the country. The service brings buyers and sellers together the Superior way in a bid and ask format of all types and classes of cattle.
Our country page allows our customers to put cattle on and market them every day. So if they didn't get their cattle consigned to the next video sale, or they won't be able to wait until the one after that, then that's where the country page comes into play. They give us the contract, we get it up on the web where people can view it, they set their asking price, and then we here in the office go to work on trying to get those cattle sold for them.
Click to Bid is our live auction bidding application. Myself and Rayne Austin run it, and it's allowed our buyers to sit at home in the office and bid on cattle from their computer without picking up their phone and dealing with a delay there. And we show them what the asking price is, and if you want to bid it, you click the button and it shows up on my end, which I relay that bid to the auctioneer. And I think a lot of guys like the fact that they don't have to sit on the phone and they can do other things. Say you've got 1 out of 10 lots you're interested in, opposed to sitting on the phone, you follow along. That one lot comes up, you hit the dinger a few times, and you either get the cattle bought or you don't.
Thanks to Pratt Feeders, Pokey Feeders, Hitch Enterprises, and Superior Livestock Auction for helping bring you this Feedyard special. Remember that the Superior Country page is a great source for immediately available cattle from across the nation. Give Rayne or Mitchell a call and let them go to work for you. Thanks to all of you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed the program. To find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or look us up on Facebook. I'm Pam Minnick. For the entire American Rancher team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.